Hey, everybody, welcome in. A little funk for your Tuesday afternoon. How are you doing? I'm Tyler Piper from 5 Tool Productions. This right here is Create Smarter. This is a show where we talk everything about events, marketing, and really, event marketing at the end of the day. But welcome in. I'm glad to see all of you today. And, we've got a slightly different feel for Create Smarter today. We still want to give you some behind the scenes and introduce you to the team, but we're going to set things up a little bit differently as it pertains to some of the news segments. One of the things we were saying, and as we kind of went back, we're like, you know what? Let's diversify what the news actually looks and sounds like. Doesn't need to be just me talking the entire time. So we're going to change it up a little bit, but that's coming a little bit later on in the show. Now, the one thing I do want to mention is the fact that we do have a lot of new people on the team. Now, I'm sure you've seen some new faces coming and going. We've seen a few different interviews as well, and you're going to see even more as they come out. But what's interesting right now is we actually have the opportunity to sit down with just about everybody. I say just about, not everyone, but almost everyone within the last couple of weeks to catch up, hear their backgrounds, hear where they come from, what brought them here to 5tool, and what they're excited about to be working on, kind of moving forward. So with that in mind, we thought today would be as good a time as ever to introduce you to the team. Let's take a look.
I think asking me to pick my favorite project would be like asking a parent to pick their favorite child. I love all of them equally.
So far, my favorite thing was the behind-the-scenes office tour because I got to be in it as well as edit it.
My favorite thing that I've gotten to do at 5tool so far is go on site for a shoot at Boston University with Phil. We were there filming an interview with one of their deans.
I think my favorite production here in my time with the company has probably been the Eppendorf regional sales meeting. I was connecting with two of our Portuguese translators.
My favorite edit that I've been part of was part of the Joe and Druzy annual gala, and to find out that I had the family in tears due to that video really just made me know like I did my job well.
My favorite story that we did was actually with an organization called Team Impact. We put together, this would have been about 3 years ago now, a story called The Little Duck. It was about a girl that had cancer and she was drafted by the Oregon Ducks women's volleyball team.
I think one of my favorite projects that we worked on was actually working on a project with BU, having a chance to go back and work with my alma mater to put together a video about their new leadership giving society. It's called the 1839 Society.
What I love about 5tool, it's pretty simple. I think it was my first week here. Phil was telling me like, hey, we made this company because Tyler and I wanted to go to work every day and not hate our jobs, and we want that to be the same for all of our employees.
It's not work if you're having fun every day, and to me, I'm having the time of my life right now.
What I really love about this company is that we get to pick and choose what we work on, and we work with people that we really enjoy spending time with.
We're not really a typical company. I have worked for other production companies where it was go into the office, everyone had their one job and they got out. Here at 5tool, we do everything.
What I love about 5tool Productions is that we don't do one thing. We don't pigeonhole ourselves to one type of content creation.
The thing I love about 5tool Productions the most, honestly, is just how much fun we have. Honestly, I mean, not a day goes by that I'm not like, hey, let's just do something goofy and have some fun.
Probably the biggest surprise for me starting here at 5tool has been just sort of the folks I get to talk to every day. I did not think I'd be interviewing most of the deans of Tufts University.
I would say since coming to 5tool, what surprised me about this job is how much client work is done and how on the day, in one day you could have many clients, meetings, Zoom calls, recordings, or even live streams with the client, all done in one day. And the way that the people here at 5tool jump from project to project seamlessly is really incredible.
When people always ask me the question, where do I see the company going in the future? I actually think that what we do is so unique, and I want to hold on to that as much as humanly possible. So being one of the leaders, honestly, in live streaming for corporate clients, for nonprofits, and being able to tell people stories online through video.
For this company, the sky is the limit.
I think in the short term, we've kind of, in my opinion, we're pretty close to mastering remote virtual events, but really sort of the next kind of more intricate step is going to be how do we take what we've learned from all of our virtual productions and apply those to our on-site production.
I envision us kind of having a combination of all worlds, what we were doing pre-COVID and what we've been doing during COVID to try to bring it all together.
Very, very cool. Love to see the team coming together and excited. What's really actually funny about that entire thing right there, to be totally honest with you, is hearing myself be serious, because anybody in the office will tell you that's just not the case whatsoever. But anyways, you got to be serious once in a while, especially when you're talking about your brand. It's the way it goes every now and again. But thanks to Marissa for piecing that together. And thanks for everybody kind of taking part in it. We're going to have more of those videos coming your way. Stay tuned next week. We're going to have one of our profiles coming your way next week as well. And I know Marissa's watching right now. She's going to be joining us in just a little bit. But I'm sorry. I will get you pictures and videos of me as a child. I know that's what you've been looking for and you've been very angry with me about. We'll get that, I promise you. Anyways, moving on. That's just a little insight into who the team is, what we're doing, what we're kind of hoping to do and accomplish over the course of this lifetime, honestly, if you will. But we're going to move on right now in the show itself. So right now we are going to dive into the news itself. And as I mentioned, we are going to kind of switch things up. We're going to talk a little bit more candidly about some of the news topics that are taking place right now. The very first thing we want to dive into is the fact that social audio, it's essentially everywhere right now. So you also may have seen this in the news really today, because there are, well, a few different kind of social audio tools that, well, you get them on your phone. And, I'm looking right now, which ones do I have open? I had Clubhouse open earlier. Hopefully my information wasn't stolen because, well, they had a breach earlier. So that was definitely an interesting fact. But also LinkedIn, they're going to be launching their own service right now. And there's one person that is no stranger to, listening to audio. I know he has audiobooks on basically his entire ride. Here is the man behind the glass doing the switching of this show. So we wanted this to be a little bit more interactive and engaging from that standpoint. So I wanted to invite Josh in. So Josh is the man behind the scenes. So Josh, first off, thanks for switching the show. I appreciate that. But how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's a blast to be here on the show. As you know, like you said, I'm the man behind the glass, pressing all the buttons on our production switcher here. So it's awesome just to be on, see my face in that program output. Happy to be here.
It's always the fun thing when you see yourself like, wait a minute, I'm pushing myself live right now. How is this actually working? But you sound great, sir. So all good. But Thanks. What I wanted to do is talk to you about kind of this boom in audio. Now, do you belong to any of these kind of audio platforms? I myself I'm a listener in Clubhouse. I haven't participated. I haven't created a podcast. Have you listened? Do you participate at all? I'm curious kind of what your experience is.
I am very casually waiting my feet in, I suppose. I had someone I knew was telling me all about Clubhouse back in November. He said, oh man, got to check it out. Like, you can just go in this chat room and talk with people in real time about random stuff, but never checked it out myself. I have used the Twitter function.
Yep. Definitely.
Do you know what that's called? Twitter Rooms or Twitter?
Yeah, I honestly don't know the actual name of it itself, but
it's
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It is purple. You're right.
Mm-hmm. So that's been interesting to see. I've seen a few people I follow on Twitter have gone live with brands. Sort of, they've co-branded some live events. But I'm a bit of a newbie when it comes to social audio. I guess I'm into old school audio.
Old school audio. I love the way it rolls, I guess. But the thing that I find interesting with this specifically is more the exclusivity of it. And what I mean by that is using Clubhouse as the example, because you couldn't just go out and download. Like, in the beginning, it reminds me of when Facebook was in its infancy, right? When they would roll out, it was just for Ivy League schools. And then it was slowly but surely, and it shows how old exactly I am, because it came out when I was a junior in college. And it was just, does your school have Facebook yet? Well, not quite yet. Right now, I'm feeling like Clubhouse took a very similar, and obviously it didn't roll out to Ivy League schools, but they did roll it out to a handful of people, and then say, well, you got to get an invite from your friend, and someone has to approve of your application, essentially, which was just signing up and putting your email address in there. But with that in mind, do you think this will kind of catch on, or is it just kind of a cool thing, nice to have right now? Just more curious than anything.
Yeah, I guess for my money's worth, I'd probably bet on both. In the sense that, I see this as the new form of the Snapchat story where, Clubhouse is first to do this. They're, I believe, still iOS only. Like you said, they kind of made it pretty exclusive at the start. Mm-hmm. But now you have everyone, LinkedIn, Twitter. I think I saw Spotify just recently bought a social audio app that is currently called Locker Room. They're in the midst of rebranding that to something a little better. But, everyone's kind of, 4, 5, 6 months behind, jumping on it now. I don't know if Clubhouse will be around forever. I think it's a lot easier to build a successful platform when it's already built for you. So I think LinkedIn, Twitter, Spotify, they definitely might have an advantage up on the originator of it. But yeah, I mean, do you have any thoughts on that? You've seen this kind of general trend play out before.
So with that, I was just going to say, it kind of reminds me of, we're on a live stream talking about live streaming essentially, right? But when Twitter purchased Periscope, right? Or in the beginning, if you remember, Periscope and Meerkat came out at the exact same time, and they were like the streaming wars. Who was better, Periscope or Meerkat? And Meerkat ended up kind of falling by the wayside. Periscope, Twitter picked them up, and then Twitter actually phased them out because they said, well, we're not going to have two. We're going to just build it natively into our own platform. And I think you're right. I think that's exactly what you're going to see. Now, Clubhouse, will it rise? I mean, the organic reach on it is through the roof. So people are going to be jumping on it, especially marketers and influencers are going to be tying themselves to it quite a bit right off the bat. But I am curious to see with, like you said, some of the native platforms, if they have it built in, if they will say, ooh, we're going to keep pushing this, or is someone going to pick up Clubhouse and it becomes Facebook's Clubhouse or something to that effect, which it all kind of plays on. So I think it's a wait and see more than anything else. But Josh, I appreciate you coming on with me, and I have a feeling, I know I'm going to talk to you in just a couple of minutes. So let's move on from our first news story to our next. So what are the big things that people like to do? Now, here we are on April 13th, just a couple of weeks after April Fool's Day. And of course, on social, April Fools can be a whole lot of fun. It can be a really, really cheesy. Tom Brady is a great example of that. But, some brands just hit it right. The one brand in particular, that actually two brands that did really well with this, was 7-Eleven. So 7-Eleven, if you don't remember, 7-Eleven, obviously the convenience store, swapped Twitter handles and social handles with the band 311. Now 311, they've been, talk about your mid-90s alternative rock, your prototypical 90s band, I should say. And they swapped Twitter handles, and they were kind of going back and forth and having fun throughout the course of the day. But, some people liked it, thought it was cheesy, but a lot of people really did enjoy it. So with that, what I wanted to do was bring in Marissa Yaleski, who handles a lot of things from a social perspective on our side of things. I just kind of want, not necessarily get her thoughts on it, but just talk about April Fool's Day social posts in general, because Marissa, we had a hell of a time thinking of what we should do for April Fool's Day on our own social channels, didn't we?
Yes, I was saying to you guys, I was like, we are all really funny people. This is such a fun office. Why is it so hard to come up with something funny to post on social? So I was just rolling through ideas, trying to come up with something that was funny, but like you said, not too cheesy, but like it's April Fool's Day, you kind of have to be a little cheesy. So it was tough trying to find something that like hit that sweet spot and was okay to post.
So with that in mind, I'm always interested to hear different people's opinions on this. So like there are your Valentine's Day posts, your Thanksgiving Day posts, your Christmas, your Hanukkah, your New Year's posts. Do you ever just think that, all right, enough's enough, just post what you're used to? Or should you play into those themes? Or do you like, even as just a user of social and the different platforms, do you like when brands kind of take part in that?
I think I do. I think my answer is yes. I do fall for a lot of things. I'm pretty gullible. Like you're talking about Tom Brady and his April Fool's Day post. I read it aloud in the office and I was like, guys, what is this? And you're like, it's an April Fool's Day joke, Marissa. I was like, oh yeah, duh. But I think it's fun to kind of mix up what you're posting, and especially this year, I think everybody kind of needs to laugh. So I think that it's fun to play into that whole April Fool's Day theme on social.
So with that in mind, what was our April Fool's Day post? It wasn't necessarily a joke, but we still had some fun with a picture, didn't we?
I think we did. I roped in Josh and I was like, okay, I think we're going to pretend that we're renaming the company. And so I was going to go with 6 Tool Productions because, why not 1 up from 5? But Josh said, hey, there's 7 of us. Let's do that. So I sent over all the photos that we took for our team photo day and how to make a cheesy Photoshop title of our new logo, Seven Tool Productions, and said that now that there are 7 of us working at the company, we are going to change our name. And we have not, but it was funny to post that for the day.
I mean, it's because we're funny people, as you said yourself,
Yes,
right? So,
exactly. We're funny
I
people.
dig
We're
it.
7 funny people.
So 7 funny people. If you're a funny person, have some fun with it, I guess, at the end of the day. That's just the piece of advice. And don't take yourself too seriously. Marissa, thank you very much, as always. I'm sure we'll see you on the next episode, right?
Yes, thank you, Tyler.
Very cool. All right. Thank you to Marissa. Thank you to Josh. But you know what? Before we move on, I do want to bring Josh on one more time because we do have one last story we want to talk about. And it's the idea that, well, social streaming isn't just a kind of a fun thing to do and, create a show or anything like this. It is a way to generate money, and not necessarily in the sense that you're thinking of. Now, here in the U.S., most people will, bust out their phone, jump on their laptop, or, if they have a live stream, production company at their, beckoning call like we do. You post up a stream, stream literally anything. But overseas, we are seeing in China a slightly different trend. They're actually almost becoming home shopping, HSN, home shopping network for live streams. And they're actually influencers out there that are jumping on live streams, that their platforms that they're using. It isn't necessarily like going on Facebook Live, but they are streaming through platforms that allows people to buy and sell different goods. We have seen, here in the U.S., things like gyms and health clubs. They've created content that people can subscribe to and can pay for to go ahead and watch the stream. But there aren't a ton of people outside of HSN and maybe some small mom and pop stores that are actually selling goods online. However, there are, like I mentioned, influencers in China that are doing the total opposite. One of those is Zinba. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Please do not ridicule me for mispronouncing. I apologize. Let me know if I did, which I'm sure I did. But Zinba is actually a Chinese streaming billionaire. One of his most recent streams was actually basically made him roughly about $300 million just by going live on a cell phone. He obviously has a pretty intricate setup, but at the end of the day, he was pushing it from a cell phone. And it was a little controversial. He's been selling things like bird's nests, which apparently are, off limits, but they're considered a delicacy. So some interesting pieces from that. But, Josh, I want to bring you back on. The only reason I want to bring you back on is I'm thinking we should just kind of ditch our model and we just start selling stuff left and right. What do you think?
That sounds like a plan, Tyler. I'm looking at some of the numbers here. Zinba made $1.9 billion in sales through his live streaming services last year, in 2019. And for 2020, he was hoping to reach $14 billion. So definitely not some bad growth in terms of turning $2 billion into 14. But it's really interesting. The whole social shopping scene in China, I feel like, is maybe not any large or like not inherently any different, but just the way they have it set up there is kind of unique. They have this thing called Singles Day, which I don't know if you've heard about it, Tyler, but it's basically like Amazon Prime Day, yep, and sort of an anti-Valentine's Day all mixed together. They say, hey, if you're single, don't worry, just buy a bunch of stuff from Alibaba or a bunch of stuff online. So I feel like streamers like Zinba and those like him probably just found a really good way to tap into that online social shopping spree.
It's honestly insane to really think of it. And the way they do it, they hype up. I did watch a few of the streams just to see how it went, and they were hyping it up. It's almost like having Flava Flav in your ear at all points of time, telling you, hey, take a look at this. This is the greatest project. Fast talking. Obviously don't know what they're saying necessarily. But some of the products, it was kind of cool. It was different. It was fun. But it wasn't necessarily like, I mentioned HSN where folks sit down and say, you've got your hand model showing you the latest qubit zirconium jewelry that's out there. But it was cool. So I'm interested to see if it will make it over here to the U.S. or not. It's only a matter of time before I'm sure it does. And there are some examples of it, but it'll be fun to see either way. So Josh, appreciate it very much for chiming in. Josh is kind of like our Tony Reality with PTI a little bit right now, which is pretty awesome. I dig it.
Thanks for having me on. First time, long time. Always a joy to come on the show, Tyler.
and a WEEI joke as well from Josh. But Josh is essentially our Oz today, and people call him the Old Man Tie Pie for the Flava Flav joke. Yes, Flava Flav is the only and the best hype man there actually is. Yes, Old Man Tie Pie is old. We get it, folks. We understand. All right, moving on. Speaking of old, I want to talk about old friends. This is a perfect segue because the person that just made fun of me is actually the person we're going to be bringing on the show right now. So Kyle MacNaught joined us. He's a friend of the program. He's a friend of myself and Phil. We worked with him a number of years ago, but he has since moved on to a new employer, and not when he was never a part of 5tool, but he's always part of the family essentially at the end of the day. But he moved on to a new position where he's taking on marketing for a logistics company, which is really interesting to hear, considering his background. But with that in mind, I sat down with Kyle, had a great interview, and I wanted you guys to take a look at some of the sound bites that Kyle came up with, just talking about sales enablement, talking about content creation, and how things have evolved over the course of time. Let's take a look.
Essentially, sales enablement's kind of any type of tool, right? So it could be content, it could be short form, it could be a video. Essentially anything that you're kind of inside sales, your BDRs, you're kind of like the first contact that's not inbound, a tool that they can use to kind of get their foot in the door, right? It could be cookies, right? I've seen some of that stuff, but trust me, right now I get hounded about like, dude, is your team like Reese's? I'm like, calm down, dude, beach season's coming. I can't have Reese's. But that's sort of sales enablement. I've seen it go from like cookies all the way to, if I want a VIP experience with Toby Keith, I have to at least sign a $50,000 contract. But then I get all access to Toby Keith, a flight out to Vegas, and get to see his concert and stuff. So I've seen a wide range, but I think one of the big things is the video component of where sales enablement really helps, especially kind of where you can stand out and be a little more signifying, or kind of look at like, hey, wow, this company's really doing something, isn't that hard anymore. It's also just a huge ROI. You can actually show, hey, this video worked, right? A lot of our inbound stuff, we're always sitting there trying to say, how do we explain this? How do we show this to kind of the higher ups? How do we make C-suite understand why this channel matters? Why that you're striving to hit a weekly kind of cadence in your content? Why like engagement, all that stuff matters? Because like 10 months down the road, maybe this person who watched like a lot of our videos all of a sudden has something to do. Sales enablement, on the other hand, it's like they click, they say, go ahead, let's talk. Like you've got that first touch. You were the first touch. It's kind of the better way to work, right? It's not kind of you like marketing versus sales. It's coming together. It's interesting because you do have to approach it different, but at the end of the day, it's still people, right? People connect with personalities. They're going to connect with people that are talking. So one thing that I really try to strive, at least at my current location with Freight Plus, is trying to put our experts, put our people in front of the camera, have them talking, have them have their voice out there. Try to avoid being this kind of blank marketing that's telling the story, and really let the people tell the story, because that's who they connect with. Why podcasts in particular have blown up is because of that whole idea that it's not CNN, it's not Fox News, where it's cut segments that are asking dumb questions where you're not really giving context and it's all opinion. Why these kind of things are really cool is because you get to really dive into what you're talking about. You get to have people know what they're talking about. For my company in particular, right, we've done the podcast. Now, again, our audience is what it is. It's a niche content, right? So you're not going to get Serial. We're not getting Joe Rogan numbers. However, what we do get, because we do create, and we've shown that we have the ability to continue to create, and we can keep a cadence, is the media channels within my industry have reached out. They want me on the show a lot of times. I yell at them, no, that's stupid, bring on my actual experts. But because of that, I'm getting media outreach without spending it out, without PR, without any of that type of traditional mode to do it, because I'm able to create something that looks professional. I'm able to kind of hit the cadence that they look for, and kind of make those connections, right? It's like, I'll scratch your back, you scratch my back. We're a little nobody right now if we're doing nothing in our little kind of neck of the woods with our kind of clients we have, but because we signify how much we're creating and we're going out there, it's like, look at us, more people are taking notice of that. It comes down to personality, though. Again, back to the first thing we talked about, right? I think that's, yeah, I focus my content and stuff like that. I think that me trying to showcase and kind of have this almost kind of branding personal journey of like, hey, me learning this industry, sort of why you're joining along, and kind of, I'm going to ask these dumb questions, I'm going to do that type of stuff. I don't know if I'm doing it right. I don't know if I'm doing it well. It's one of those things, you just got to do it, right? You can't sit around, you can't ask every mentor or person in the world, like, how do I do this? What do I need? What equipment are you using? I just go. You got to start going and creating, and you'll learn from there.
Awesome. Big thank you to Kyle for jumping on with me. Really appreciate it. You know, we spend probably way too much time talking about everything else other than marketing, but that's kind of the way it goes when the two of us get together. So appreciate Kyle, honestly, for taking time out to jump on with me, have a really good conversation. There's some other sound bites that are on the cutting room floor that were just awesome, to be completely honest with you, that we missed out on, but we'll definitely be sharing those in the course of time. And Kyle actually made fun of me for being old, for talking about someone, Flava Flav, that was from obviously the mid-90s, and the fact that makes me old. Well, I just wanted to break it to him that his reference was Lil Jon, and Lil Jon has not been around in the last 10 years. So, Kyle, you're also old now, pal. It's the way it works, buddy. Welcome to the club. Anyway, so that'll basically do it for today on Create Smart. I really want to say thank you to everybody that came on, that tuned in, that watched, that was commenting on the feed itself, and for the folks like Josh and for Marissa who jumping in during the news as well. Now, one of the things we do always love doing here at 5tool is taking you behind the scenes to show you how things are kind of put together. Now, recently we were at a place called the New England Baptist Hospital, or NEBH, and we were on location filming a kind of a cool video with them about what keeps them moving, kind of their entire staff. So with that in mind, we figured we'd show you behind the scenes of what it was like to put that video together as they get ready to launch their new campaign. So that'll do it for us. Here's this one to play us out, if you will. We are at New England Baptist Hospital. We are putting together a video for donor support. So why people give to the hospital and where the money goes to at the end of the day. Should be a cool shoot. We're using some seamless paper in the background, so you can see a lot of blue, because that's the color of their kind of logos and things like that. But we're moving around the hospital, getting some great B-roll, behind the scenes, and a little bit of everything. Should be a pretty cool video when all said and done.
You keep us on time.